If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy. Download and subscribe at BeBullish.com.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, can you say radical extremist Democratic Socialist New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani? Because I believe that is what's going to happen after tonight's debate, barring some big change in the race for New York City mayor. The first New York City mayoral general election debate took place at Rockefeller Center. It was on WNBC television, and you probably were hopefully listening to our play-by-play live because I joined many of my colleagues as we were talking about it as it was happening. And I think there were a lot of lost opportunities, and I think we are sadly in the home stretch, and barring some October surprise or some big change in the race, sadly, Zohran Mamdani, who I believe is the most extreme candidate in my lifetime, and I think the most dangerous for a lot of reasons, I think he is headed to the mayor's office. And I say that because he is so far ahead. The latest poll, the Quinnipiac poll, Mamdani 46%, Cuomo 33%, Curtis Sliwa 15%. And sadly, after this debate tonight, where I felt the media was definitely in the tank for Mamdani, nothing changed the dynamic of the race. And boy, oh boy, New York City's in trouble. America's in trouble because later on, I think in next weekend, we're going to see a big, big rally with AOC, Bernie Sanders, and Zohran Mamdani. I believe if Mamdani gets to the New York City mayor's office, even with his extreme, radical, anti-Semitic, anti-Italian, anti-a lot of things views, if he gets in, I think AOC is going to feel emboldened. She's going to want to run for president. And I think Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, all of those folks are going to have their good friend Zohran Mamdani in New York City. And a New York City mayor can do a lot of damage. We were talking about the kind of judges that the mayor has the position to be able to appoint, soft on crime, radical judges. Also, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which oversees police and disciplines police, as opposed to the New York City Police Commissioner, which has traditionally been the one who oversees police misconduct or questionable cases. Well, now it will go to this board. According to Mamdani, that's what he wants to do. Put it in with this board that's going to be mini Mamdanis. And that means that is going to be a lot of trouble for police. It's going to be a lot of trouble because this guy has all these plans, free buses, free this, free that, has no idea how he's going to pay for it other than tax the rich. He's even said he wants to tax white neighborhoods. He's also praised folks tied to 9/11. His family, his father wrote about how great suicide bombers are, that we need to have more sympathy for suicide bombers. This is to me an un-American candidate. That's my view. I mean, if I look at this guy has sympathy, it seems like, for Hamas. He should be running for mayor of Gaza. And sadly, I think he's on his way after tonight to mayor of New York. And it breaks my heart, guys. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin on line 5. Go ahead, Joaquin. Your thoughts tonight.
Good evening, Rita. It's very obvious that the media was definitely, deliberately in the tank for Mamdani. And There are a number of things I can really tie into this. Actually, I can even bring it back to Canada and to Katie, who you spoke with regarding the ostriches. This is a globalist agenda, and if you look at Canada itself, they surrendered their sovereignty, as was pointed out. They don't even have control of their own, Canadian Food Inspection Agency. They are leaving it up to the UN and to the World Health, Organization. And that's exactly what's at work here. And the left manages, to use emotions, to work up emotions in ignorant people. And aside from the media, that's in the tank, if you look at the blue cities, it's the educational system that has indoctrinated these people. And so, unfortunately, I don't think that none of these guys, Curtis or Cuomo, were going to take any votes away from Mamdani. I seriously doubt that was ever going to happen.
I don't either. But you know what they could have done? They could have kind of cut him at the legs. So a number of people watching tonight might have a bad taste in their mouth, or at least an eye-opening moment about some of his values, because the media, the moderators weren't doing that. They were kind of like you just said, I believe in the tank for him. So I think they needed to topple Mamdani, at least put a dent in him, and also find reasons for others to vote for them instead. And I don't know if they did. I don't think they, like you just said, if they couldn't cut into him, and you needed to, by the way, reality or not, whether it's possible, even a little dent, but also to galvanize others towards them versus other ones. And I don't think there was a standout moment. Your thoughts?
No, not at all. Unfortunately, perhaps, I think that Cuomo might have thought that maybe the media might have been more on his side, more so than Curtis,
I don't think so. I don't think so tonight. I'll tell you, because I thought they
they weren't right.
I thought they asked the nastiest questions to Cuomo. By the way, and listen, I don't begrudge. I think some of the questions were fair questions. They asked about nursing homes, the sexual harassment, but then they go to Mamdani, and it's like, Mamdani, okay, globalize the intifada. Great. Next question. As opposed to, if you're going to go after hard-hitting questions, I'm all for that. I think those are the best debates, but do it equally.
Right. Well, and here's the thing of that. What I meant to say was Cuomo, I think, probably got taken by surprise, didn't realize that they were going to be that hostile to him, since he is actually a Democrat himself.
He should have known. He should have known.
Yeah, the outcome is really, I knew it was going to turn out this way, that Cuomo was definitely going to sink like a rock. But, this whole thing with the Democrats was pointed out, that they're going to have a rally, AOC, and all these leftists, they see Mamdani and the Islamists really as the future of the Democrat Party. And I got to hand it to Judge Weinberg. He nailed it about Islam. He's up on that, because as he pointed out, even the quote-unquote good Muslims, if they don't go along with what it says in the Quran, they're just as, they're just as bad as the infidels to the rest of the Muslims, So Islam is a definite danger to this country.
Yeah, and this guy is extreme. There's no doubt. If you look at his family, they're extreme. There are so many issues here. And Joaquin, you hit it on the head. This guy, I believe, is an extremely dangerous individual, which is why tonight you can't just sit back and do a decent job at a debate. It's hard to debate. I have no doubt. It's a very hard task. There is no question. But you got to play for all the marbles in Cuba, because that's what's on the line, because we don't want to look like Cuba under Mamdani. And when you have somebody that is so extreme and so radical, and his views are so radical, and his history is so radical, and he's telegraphing who he is, just as Judge Weinberg so eloquently said. You can't kind of half go after him. You got to go for all the marbles, and you got to, even if it's not for yourself, do it for the city. And I didn't see that tonight, and that's what breaks my heart. Joaquin, thank you very much. And you guys, let's play a little bit, because one of the things Joaquin is talking about here is, this guy, first off, I believe he's going to let protesters protest. His even philosophy is on even cases where there's domestic violence. Send a social worker. Don't send a cop. You got to hear this back and forth. And the question was essentially asked, when do you determine safety versus violence? When do you know to send a cop or a social worker? Anybody with any experience would say, yes, send a cop, but not Mamdani.
How will you determine whether there is a concern for safety or violence? What is the line between the calls in which police will be dispatched and the calls to which social workers will be dispatched?
The line is also going to be one focused on violence and the threat of violence. And I also trust the operators who will be receiving those calls to make that determination, as they do every day today for so many emergency services.
And just two really quick points, please. There has been a lot of discussion that you would send social workers to domestic violence calls, which police are concerned about. So you're saying no. Okay. And then the other question is, how can you be sure that a situation that does not sound violent when someone calls 911 does not become violent in the moment? Would police be assigned as backup?
I think what you do is you actually follow the experts that have shown us this can work when you're willing to ensure that you're trusting the mental health experts who have been doing this work elsewhere in the country, where they call for the police when they need the police, but their initial impulse when there's no violence in that call is to actually address the mental health at the heart of it.
Okay, Mr. Sliwa, you have encountered plenty of these types of situations in your decades of work with the Guardian Angels. So do you see this approach working? You're not a police officer, but you've helped out in situations.
Zohran. Boy, another fantasy that's not reality. Eugene, Oregon. Have you ever been to Eugene? I've been to Eugene. Come on, this is New York City. We have so many emotionally disturbed persons that are in need of help. I will tell you this, Andrew, you closed the mental health beds that were taking care of them. 40,000 when you came into office, down to 4,000 because of your cuts, which forced these people to live in the streets, in the parks, and the subways. These people need to be removed. They need mental health care. We need to make our shelters safe. I've been in 1/3 of the 300 shelters run by the Department of Homeless Services. It's Darwinian there, survival of the fittest. If we can make our shelter system safe, we can get men and women who are homeless in there, especially veterans who we're not giving any attention to, who we put out in Ward's Island at 10 o'clock at night, release during the day, don't give any training, have them roam about, and obviously when you have nothing to do, you end up getting into trouble. Okay. This is a disastrous, homeless and emotionally disturbed plan that we have in New York City. And I'm the mayor that can change it because I deal with them every day in the streets, in the parks, and the subways.
Okay, Mr. Cuomo, do you think that the NYPD handles these calls for emotionally disturbed people in distress well? Is there room for something in the middle?
Yeah, I think the Assemblyman deals in theory. There's an advantage when you actually have experience. I've run homeless programs. I ran the homeless programs for the federal government. I worked with cities all across the nation. When you get a call on a telephone about a mentally ill person who may be violent, it is a very dangerous situation. And I think you should have a mental health worker accompanied with a police officer, because these can be explosive situations. I have been in situations that seemed apparently calm and fine and then erupted into violence very quickly, and it got very dangerous very quickly. So I would have a social worker with a police officer and get the people off the streets. That's the humane thing, and get them the care they need, not institutionalize 40,000 people again. We have supportive housing now, which is what we use, and forensic beds for people who need them.
Now, let me get this straight. A police officer is there first. He has to wait for the arrival of a mental health care worker.
No, I would send them as a team.
As a team. But that's not realistic. You're dealing with fantasy also.
All right.
The police officers are going to be the first one on the scene, and they're always going to have to deal with it first and foremost.
Mr. Cuomo says that he has experience running homeless programs. What he has experience doing is cutting funding for the very programs that prevented homelessness here in New York City. As the governor, he cut funding for the Advantage program, which was putting New Yorkers who had otherwise been in shelters, otherwise been homeless, into apartments. I met one of those New Yorkers, and she told me how that pushed her out on the street.
Thank you, Mr. Mamdani. Brief response, Mr.
He's talking about a program 14 years ago that was a pilot program that had a work requirement. It was very controversial. It was $65 million.
You're talking about Advantage, just so we know what you're talking about? Okay.
It was 14 years ago, $65 million. I added billions to the homeless budget. Funded the homeless budget larger than any governor in history.
Okay.
He cut that program. Homelessness skyrocketed
Mr. Mamdani,
we have aired this 14 years ago.
Wow. That is an interesting dynamic. And you just heard Mamdani saying he's going to send a social worker as opposed to a police officer. He's also going to trust the operator, the dispatcher, to decide, is this something that we should send a police officer or a social worker for? Are you kidding me? First of all, obviously dispatchers, they're greatly skilled, but they're not out there on the scene. You know, they're just trying to do the best they can with the call that comes in and the information to them. This is going to be very dangerous. You're going to send a social worker to a domestic violence call that maybe on the surface doesn't sound so bad. And then the minute you get there, those calls turn awfully dangerous and awfully deadly. They're often the most dangerous calls of all, a domestic violence call where somebody has mental health issues because it's unpredictable. That's why this is so dangerous. And let's not forget, this is the same Zohran Mamdani who was asked yesterday on Fox by Martha McCallum about a guy who had 13 repeat offenses and was carrying around a 20-inch machete. And she said, where would you put that guy? And his answer was, let's put them in Fountain House, essentially, that people with mental health, that even repeat offenders, violent repeat offenders, should go to a place like Fountain House as opposed to Rikers. Fountain House is a community housing. They do great work. That's not where you put someone who is a violent repeat offender, who has the potential to kill a lot of people in that place and cause a lot of damage. You want to put somebody like that behind bars, and Mamdani doesn't get it. And New York is really going to sink under this guy. 1-800-848-9222. Let's pray for a miracle, guys. We're going to take your calls after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
You know the words dominating today's headlines.
Private equity,
generative capital gains tax.
America's chip fueled by market volatility.
Bets on Fed rate cuts are sweet.
But do you understand how they impact your world and your wallet? In a world that skims the what, understand the why. Because context changes everything. Subscribe at Bloomberg.com.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55%, so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
This is a real good story about Bronx and his dad, Ryan, real United Airlines customers.
We were returning home, and one of the flight attendants asked Bronx if he wanted to see the flight deck and meet Captain Andrew.
I got to sit in the driver's seat.
I grew up in an aviation family, and seeing Bronx kind of reminded me of myself when I was that age.
That's Andrew, a real United pilot.
These small interactions can shape a kid's future.
It felt like I was the captain.
Allowing my son to see the flight deck will stick with us forever.
That's how good leads the way.
This is the Rita Cosby Show.
And you are listening to the Rita Cosby Show on a very important night with the New York City mayoral general election debate, the first of two, but probably by far the most important, just wrapping up. Let's go to Norm in Brooklyn on line 5. Norm, what do you think?
What do I think? Rita, yes, they could have hit him harder. Of course, they could have hit Mamdani harder. However, I don't think anything was lost. I think the same dynamics are still going on. Look, I looked visually. When I turned it on, I saw a mayor. I saw Cuomo who looked like a mayor. I mean, he looked good to me, in my opinion. I don't think he looked dead. I think he looked together. His suit looked great.
By the way, I agree on that. And I agree, Norm, that nothing probably change the dynamics. Norm, do me a favor, stick with us. I'm going to hold you over after the break, but I agree with you. I don't think anything was lost. The problem is they needed a knockout punch to have a big gain because they're behind. That's the problem.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. ¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
Rita Cosby is on.
And many of you are also reacting on social media to the big debate tonight, the New York City mayoral general election debate taking place at Rockefeller Center. You can always follow me at Rita Cosby on Twitter or X. And here it is. Larry Fish says it's time for us to pack the bags. Oh, no, Larry. And also others are also saying that they were disappointed in the debate. They were happy with our coverage. I love this. Sal says, Rita, you did an excellent job of debate coverage. I think New York City and the state are definitely becoming the equivalent of the worst and most dangerous part of the Twilight Zone. Sal, very sadly, I think you are correct. And also, Catherine Trunk saying that a few years ago, real Donald Trump said that the U.S. would never become socialist. His administration must do all it legally can to oust Mamdani from the race. Foreign donors before this movement picks up steam with AOC and commie hopefuls. They don't have a lot of time, Catherine. Let's see what happens. Maybe there is some October surprise. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go back to Norm in Brooklyn. Go ahead, Norm.
There's going to be a surprise in November. Mamdani to me looked like a nervous frat boy. He did not look like a mayor. He looked like he was, in his college debate team. There.
Yeah, he looked like a smooth operator. So but he
was just chattering. I mean, he just didn't look like a mayor. Now, did Curtis look like a mayor? No, I love Curtis, and I like his politics, and Curtis is the best one in my opinion. Politically, in my mind, but there ain't enough of them here. We don't have enough of them. So I agree with we don't have enough Republicans in this city. So in my opinion, I agree with the judge. I do believe Curtis needs to get out. I do believe that's the only way that's the only way we're gonna avoid Zohran. That's it. But
you know your point, Norm. You brought up that like there was no harm, and I agree. I don't think anybody hurt themselves tonight. And I wanted to pick up on that too at the beginning
there couldn't
because
have been a knockout punch.
Right, they needed a knockout. That's the point.
No, but they couldn't have been. This is. They couldn't have been in that forum. I couldn't see. But
the problem is, Norm. It doesn't. Norm.
Just the appearance.
Norm.
Of
the problem is that's the only forum they got. There is another debate coming up, but it's New York one, and I hate to say that's the same New York one who allowed him to go on and on and on about globalize the Intifada. I thought if there was ever going to be a hard hitting debate, tonight was going to be it, and then you got one more, and that's it.
Right, but just the appearance of Zohran as that chattering college boy, okay?
I saw it differently.
Look, you're not gonna affect those blue-haired lunatics that I encounter on the Upper West Side
and
down
also
in
the young
Village.
people. What about the young people at the college campuses?
You know what? I don't see scores and scores of young people going out and voting for Zohran. I don't see it.
I do.
This is going to bring out. Okay, this is going to bring out normal Jewish people and normal people. It's going to bring out senior citizens. It's going to bring out the stands, okay, who are going to go out there and they're going to vote for Cuomo, okay? That's it.
Well, and by the way, Norm, you hear what I'm saying. And I have never said this, and all the times, and I've covered many elections, guys, you know this.
Right.
I have never said it's a choice between a terrorist sympathizer or a non-terrorist sympathizer, but that really is the choice. That's what people have to think when they get to the voting booth. The problem is, Norm, in a normal election, I would agree with you that traditionally younger people stay home. And that's what happened with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, packed Union Square, I remember during the primary. But then when it came to the primary day, a lot of them stayed home. Zohran is different. And the reason I say this, the loony Mamdani, and it breaks my heart because, I'm not a fan of his. But he has a very strong get out the vote effort. His enthusiasm has pretty much stayed flat. I think he's peaked. But your point is a good one. Watch the
numbers in the next few days.
Right. Well, that's the point. And also, by the way, getting a very good get out the vote on the other end. And I agree, they have to consolidate on the other end. They got to consolidate because it's splitting the vote. And if it continues to split the vote, there is no way that Zohran Mamdani will be beaten, and that saddens me because that is bad news for America and this city. On the other hand, I don't know if it's too late to have somebody drop out. I mean, really, and unless they all do a press conference together, every single anti-Mamdani candidate does a press conference together and all together says, listen, we may not like each other, we may not believe in each other, but we're backing X candidate for the good of New York. And, we have our big differences, but they're nowhere near as different as Zohran Mamdani. But just dropping out tepidly doesn't really change the game, and it leaves the voters flailing. It needs to be a cohesive, concerted, get out the vote effort. And also, you hit on the Jewish vote. Where are the Jewish voters? There are some that are voting for Mamdani, which I think is a disgrace. Because everything he says to me sounds so anti-Semitic and horrible. But the rest of the Jewish voters should be out there protesting, doing press conferences, and also working on their own get out the vote effort. This is the biggest population of Jews outside of Israel. Galvanize and beat this guy for the good of America, not just for yourselves, but for the good of America. Norm, your thoughts?
Every normal, modern, Orthodox, and not Orthodox, normal Jews that I train. I'm a trainer. I work on the Upper West Side. All the normal ones, every single one of them, okay? And I've got 10, 15. I communicate even the ones I don't train with. They're all going to vote for Cuomo, okay? They will never vote for, never, no matter how much I push them, no matter how much arguments, they will never vote for somebody with an R. But they will never vote for Mamdani. Never. Okay, so I'm
happy to hear that. I'm happy we do that.
They will never vote for two lunatics I know. Okay, and one of them regretfully I trained. Two lunatics I know I would say are probably going to vote for Mamdani because whatever they wear, one wears a Bernie Sanders shirt, so I know this is going to be Mamdani. I know that. The other one, I don't really talk politics, but I smell it. I smell the hardcore leftist. That's it. Almost everybody I know is everybody I know, and they're all Trump haters. They're all Trump haters, okay? They're all going to vote for Cuomo.
Well,
okay?
you know what? My philosophy, Norm, anybody but the terrorist sympathizer Mamdani. Anybody. We cannot let New York and America fall to this guy. The more I hear, the more dangerous I am. And I really, he frightens me. This is not just someone who says he is a true believer. And I think he's the beginning of the end of New York. And it will take a long time to come back after somebody like that. Norm, let's pray. Let's pray, guys. Let's pray. Great talking to you, Norm. Let's go to Charlotte in Pittsburgh on line 1. Go ahead, Charlotte.
Hi, I was listening very closely. I'm blind, so I have to listen to content of the answers.
Oh, by the way, very interesting, Charlotte. So what did you think hearing it?
That it was a fake debate. It was a rally for Mamdani, that they interrupted Curtis continuously because Curtis had the most constructive answers for all the issues, for homelessness, for madness, for housing, for the police. He had answers, and they cut him off each time. And Cuomo he's had his day in the sun, and the sun went down on him. And I think that if people have any concern for self-well-being and they have concern for their families and their neighborhoods, they would vote for Curtis. He has knowledge of history. He has knowledge of New York City. He has hands-on experience with all the different issues that are affecting the city, and he's talked about it over the years.
Charlotte, let me ask you, because I hear all that, but let me ask you, was there a knockout punch tonight? I didn't hear it.
Well, if you were listening for content, you would see
I actually did.
That was the only serious person with answers was Curtis.
But Charlotte, by the way, Charlotte, I think he had some great answers, and I do think the moderators were clearly working against him. I hear you on that. The problem is I keep looking, and this is not a one-off. This is a major trend. Mamdani 46, Cuomo 33, Curtis 15. So somebody tonight to change the number one spot needed to do something incredibly dramatic to change the course of the race. And I didn't hear that. Did you hear that? Am I missing something?
I think the fault is with the audience because they are not listening. They are not watching what's going on and paying attention. So,
you know what, Charlotte? That's a great point because I think a lot of people, especially who saw this debate on TV, they see, the young smiling Mamdani, and maybe to your point, because, you hear his slick little words and, I listen very carefully to verbiage and he frightens me. The more I hear of his verbiage, he frightens me. And I don't know if that didn't come across as clearly if you're looking at the pictures and looking at all the video and seeing this young smiling guy, and free again, and I agree. I also think that the moderators clearly really marginalized Curtis Sliwa, and I think that's a disservice too, because I think he's done a lot for the city and also for the subways and all that other stuff. And yet they definitely marginalized him. And unfortunately, he did not rise above it. So there are two issues. He had the media clearly in the tank for Mamdani, and he wasn't able to overcome that. That's the problem. There were two things sort of, unfortunately, he had a deck stacked against him. And the polls are also against him, too, which is not a good thing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Believe me. The last thing I want to do is see Mayor Mamdani in New York, guys. Charlotte, really interesting. You're terrific. Thank you so much. Let's go to Jay in New Jersey on line 3. Jay, your thoughts tonight?
Hey, Rita. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Curtis for a long time, but I'm angry tonight, and I'm very upset with Curtis because he was a disgrace tonight. he, as you say, did not rise above it, and that's putting it very, very mildly, in my opinion.
I'm trying to be kind.
Yes, but Curtis has to get out. And, Dominic Carter would probably call me one of the delusional ones until tonight. But Curtis must get out because tonight's performance was so disgraceful. Just starting off talking about his red beret and making jokes about that. He gave up an opportunity to come out swinging, and he utterly failed. And the debate itself was just horrible. It was 3-1 against Andrew Cuomo. The moderators were clearly trying to get him with each question while he covered for Mamdani. Every time the tweets that he put out before where they were brought up, and the moderators would jump in and they would say, let's move on. And what also angered me was how much of a team Mamdani and Curtis were. How many times did we hear Mamdani say, I agree with Curtis?
Yes.
They were teaming up against Andrew Cuomo, and that was horrible to see.
By the way, I did notice that too. It felt like Curtis and Mamdani at some points were on the same page. I don't know if that was, I don't think it was intentional, but I think Curtis was so focused on going after Cuomo, he was forgetting the leader of the whole race right now is Mamdani. And what's a shame is you had to really go after it. And you heard earlier tonight, Jay, just as you said, I mean, a lot of people on the panel that we had earlier tonight were all agreeing that Curtis needed to get out, that it was definitely, sadly, not a great debate for him. And he did a disservice to New York by not going after Mamdani because I think had he had a really hard-hitting debate, it could have helped him, and it certainly could have helped New York City. And I didn't see either. What do you think?
Absolutely. That's correct. I really wanted Curtis to come out tonight and do and speak for, the angry New Yorkers that he's claiming to run for.
I do too, and he's very eloquent.
He totally
and
did not.
I agree.
It was horrible, Rita.
And you know what? Also, you brought up the red beret thing when it first started with the red. You have an opening statement. You don't talk about and make some joke about a red beret when you're trying to be taken seriously by voters. It reinforced what people were saying, and it was a lost opportunity for Curtis and for New York.
100%. And just imagine what Donald Trump was watching that. Well, Donald Trump is a master debater. He gave a master class in almost every debate he has performed in. And when you're given an opportunity to set the stage and the tone for what your message is, and you just make a joke about the lack of your head covering, it was so underwhelming. It was painful to watch, and Curtis has to get out. Andrew Cuomo was terrible too. It was horrible watching him, but it's just disheartening and very saddening watching tonight. And as a supporter of Curtis, it makes me angry too to watch that.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. I agree. It was not the finest hour. And I think he could have done much, much better. He's very eloquent. And there wasn't and when you have a race like this, it's different if you're all sort of on the same plane in terms of the poll numbers. You needed something that would have a dramatic change in the race. And sadly, I think some of them hurt themselves versus helped or even stayed steady. And that's not good. Jay, thank you very, very much for your honesty. And boy, it was a tough night to watch. It's a tough night for New York City, guys. Let's continue your calls after the break. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And everybody, this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a powerful story from Tallahassee, where the Florida Veterans Hall of Fame Society recognized 20 veterans of the state of Florida for their accomplishments, including Colonel Augustus Akins, who is also Leon County's longest-serving judge and also the namesake of the county courthouse. He's now retired, the veteran, but he devoted 3 decades of his life to the Florida Army National Guard. And of course, bravo to all of the great National Guard members who are doing such difficult work, especially now, protecting all of us and protecting ICE too. And everybody, after the break, we will continue your calls. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And remember, everybody, all it takes is just $11 a month. Be sure to donate $11 a month to the incredible Tunnel to Towers Foundation at T2T.org, T2T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And everybody, let's try to go to your calls real quickly, guys. Adrian in Manhattan, line 3. Go ahead, Adrian.
Hi, I'm actually a Republican, and I was pleasantly surprised by Cuomo. I mean, I just don't, Curtis is a nice and all, but he choked last time he ran. I didn't expect him to do anything but choke this time, which he did. Second hour, he had better ideas, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to have enough Republicans that are going to you're not going to have enough Democrats that would vote Republican. They just won't. They refuse. So I think Cuomo's the best shot. And I thought I'm in an alternate universe. I didn't think he did so terrible.
By the way, I actually did not think that Cuomo did so poorly either. I thought he showed himself to be, I thought it was one of his better debate performances. The question is, does it change the dynamic enough? That's the question.
Well, the thing is, there's low voter turnout, and all this talk about the Jews. I'm Jewish, and they're a tiny percentage of the voting population. The primaries were obscenely low turnout in general, so he got a record amount of obscenely low turnout. We have a voter turnout problem in New York. So, it's like 25% of the population decides for the rest of us. So it's the 75% that sit home and don't bother voting. That's what's scary.
Yeah,
okay?
and by the way, during the last election, it was 23% was the voter turnout in New York. They got to get out. They got to get out. But Adrian, I understand what you're saying, because if people can get galvanized to get out and vote, you're right. And I actually didn't think Cuomo did a bad job. I actually thought he did quite a good job talking about him with the experience. The problem was he was taking incoming from the moderators, a lot of incoming from Curtis, from Mamdani, and the moderators were clearly in the tank for Mamdani, and Curtis and Cuomo needed a big breakout moment, but still a few more weeks, you guys, about 2.5 or 3 till Election Day. Pray.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
If you're looking to create, grow, and sustain your wealth, download and subscribe to the Pain Points of Wealth podcast at BeBullish.com with Bob, Ryan, and Chris Payne. It's your podcast for market insights, money tips, and real talk on the economy.
Download and subscribe
at BeBullish.com.